The stars burned cold and distant as Thyros worked at his communication device. His blue hands shook as he typed the final commands. Around him, the walls of the research station trembled from another explosion. The Crotech ships were getting closer. "Sir, we need to leave now," his assistant called from the doorway. Smoke filled the corridor behind her. Thyros did not look up. "2 more minutes. I need 2 more minutes." The Vellani had lived in peace for 3,000 years. They grew food, built beautiful cities, and studied the stars. They never hurt anyone. They had no weapons, no armies, no ships built for war. When the Crotech Empire came, the Vellani could only run. But there was nowhere left to run. The Crotech had destroyed 47 Vellani worlds in 6 months. They burned the farms, smashed the cities, and killed everyone they found. The Crotech said the Vellani were weak and did not deserve to live. They called it cleaning. Thyros finished entering the star maps into his message. His communication device was the most powerful one the Vellani had ever built. It could send signals across the entire galaxy. Maybe someone would hear. Maybe someone would care. Another explosion rocked the station. The lights went out for a moment, then came back on. Thyros knew he had very little time left. He started recording his message. "To anyone who receives this signal," he said in the common galactic language, "My name is Thyros. I am a scientist of the Vellani people. Our civilization is dying. The Crotech Empire is destroying us world by world, system by system." He paused to add the tactical data he had collected. Crotech ship designs, their weapons, their fleet movements, everything the Vellani had learned while running for their lives. "We are not fighters," Thyros continued. "We never learned how to make war. We cannot stop them. In a few hours I will be dead. In a few weeks, there will be no more Vellani anywhere in the galaxy." The door behind him exploded inward. 3 Crotech soldiers in black armor stepped through the smoke. They were tall and thin, with 4 arms and faces like insects. Their weapons glowed with deadly energy. "Found another bug," one of them said in their clicking language. They always called other species bugs. Thyros kept working. His message was almost ready to send. "If any civilization receives this," he said quickly, "please remember that we existed. Remember that we tried to be good. Remember that we did not deserve this." The lead Crotech soldier raised his weapon. "Stop moving, bug!" Thyros hit the send button. The message shot out into space at faster-than-light speed. It would reach every corner of the galaxy eventually. Most planets would ignore it. Most species were too afraid of the Crotech to help anyone. But maybe someone would listen. Maybe someone out there was strong enough to care. The Crotech weapon fired. Thyros fell to the floor, his task complete. Far across the galaxy, on a small blue planet, Dr. Kang Hyun was working the night shift at the Deep Space Communications Array. It was a quiet job. Earth had been listening to space for 200 years, but they had never heard anything interesting. Hyun was drinking coffee and reading reports when his computer started beeping. A new signal was coming in. It was strong and clear, using the mathematical language that all intelligent species understood. "Mina, come look at this," he called to his colleague. Dr. Park. Mina walked over from her desk. She was the best linguist at the facility. If anyone could understand alien languages, it was her. "What is it?" she asked. "I think it's a distress signal," Hyun said. "From space." Mina leaned over his shoulder to look at the screen. The signal was complex, with lots of data attached, star maps, technical specifications, and what looked like military information. "This is real," she whispered. "This is actually from aliens." They worked through the night to decode the message. The mathematics was easy to understand. The language took longer, but Mina was very good at her job. By morning, they had translated most of it. The message told a terrible story. An entire civilization was being wiped out by something called the Krotech Empire. Billions of innocent people were dying. The aliens who sent the message were called Villani, and they were asking for help. "We have to tell someone," Mina said. Hyun nodded. This was the most important discovery in human history. First contact with aliens, and they were being murdered. He picked up the secure phone and called his supervisor. Within an hour, officials from every major government on Earth were reading the translated message. The signal kept repeating. Every few minutes, Thyros's voice came through the speakers again, asking for help that would never come in time. The Villani were probably already dead, but Earth had heard them. In the secure meeting room beneath the United Nations building, world leaders gathered to discuss what they had learned. The alien message included detailed information about the Krotech Empire. They controlled over 50,000 warships. They had conquered 200 star systems. They had been expanding for 500 years. "They're coming this way," Admiral Lee Dong-hyuk said. He was the commander of Earth's Space Defense Forces. "Maybe not today, maybe not this year, but eventually they'll reach us." President Kim Sora looked tired. "What are our options?" "We can hide," Lee said. "Keep quiet and hope they never notice us, or we can do something about this." "Do what?" "You just said they have 50,000 ships. We have 30. "We have something." "They don't," Lee said quietly. "We're from Earth." Everyone in the room knew what that meant. Earth was a death world, a planet so dangerous that most alien species couldn't even visit it. The gravity was too strong, the weather too violent, the animals too deadly. Humans had evolved to survive things that would kill most other creatures in the galaxy. The Krotech might have bigger fleets and better technology, but they had never fought anyone like humans. "The Villani were peaceful," Lee continued. "They had no weapons, no military, no experience with war. We've been fighting wars for 10,000 years. We know how to kill things." Minister Yoon Tae-hyun spoke up. "What exactly are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we help them," Lee said. "And I'm suggesting we make the Krotech Empire regret they ever started this war." The room was quiet for a long moment. Outside, Earth continued its rotation around the sun, peaceful and blue. But something had changed. The innocent aliens who had asked for help would not be forgotten. President Kim looked around the table at her advisors. "How long would it take to build a fleet?" 6 months for a small force, Lee said. 2 years for something that could make a real difference. Then, "We'd better get started." As the meeting ended and the leaders returned to their nations, the alien message continued to broadcast across Earth's communication networks. Scientists studied the technical data. Military officials analyzed the Krotech fleet compositions. Engineers began designing new weapons. But most importantly, billions of humans learned that somewhere in the galaxy, innocent people had been murdered by bullies. And Earth's children did not like bullies. The Krotech Empire had made their greatest mistake. They had sent their message of genocide across the galaxy, thinking no one would care enough to stop them. They were wrong. The Death World had heard them, and the Death World was getting ready to answer. 3 days after receiving the alien message, every major government on Earth was working together for the first time in human history. The threat was too big for any one nation to handle alone. President Kim Sora stood in the Emergency Command Center deep beneath Geneva. Around her, screens showed military bases across Earth. Ships were being built, weapons were being tested, and soldiers were being trained, all because of a message from the stars. "Status report," she said. Admiral Lee Dong-hyuk stepped forward. "We've begun converting all available spacecraft for military use, the mining ships, the cargo haulers, the research vessels. Everything that can fly is being armed. How many ships will that give us? Maybe 200, if we strip everything else. But they won't be very good against real warships." Kim nodded. She had expected this answer. Earth's space fleet was built for exploration and trade, not war. The ships were tough enough to handle asteroids and cosmic radiation, but they had never been designed to fight. What about new construction? "That's where it gets interesting," Lee said. He activated a holographic display showing ship designs. "We're not trying to copy alien technology. We're building human ships for human tactics." The designs looked different from the sleek alien vessels in the Crotech data files. Earth's new warships were angular and brutal, covered in armor and bristling, with weapons. They looked like something that had crawled out of Earth's violent past. "These ships are built to take damage and keep fighting," Lee explained. "They're designed by engineers who learned their trade-building machines to survive Earth's weather, Earth's oceans, Earth's earthquakes. They can operate in conditions that would destroy most alien technology." Dr. Kang Hyun entered the command center. He had been working non-stop since receiving the alien message, analyzing every piece of data the Volani had sent. "I have an update on the Crotech fleet movements," he said. The main screen changed to show a star map. Red dots marked Crotech-controlled systems. Blue dots showed the few remaining Volani colonies. Most of the blue dots had disappeared since the message was sent. "They're moving faster than we expected," Hyun said. "The Crotech have split their main fleet. One group is hunting down the last Volani survivors. The other is expanding toward new systems." "How long before they reach us?" Kim asked. "At their current speed, maybe 20 years. But if they detect our radio signals or space traffic, they could be here much sooner." Commander Choi Ji-won stepped forward. She was Earth's best starship captain, with 15 years of experience flying dangerous missions in deep space. "I'd like to volunteer for a reconnaissance mission," she said. "Take a fast ship to Volani space and see what's actually happening out there." "That's incredibly dangerous," Lee said. "If the Crotech detect you, they'll know about Earth." "They're going to find us eventually anyway," Choi replied. "At least this way we'll have real intelligence about their capabilities. The Volani data is good, but it's 3 months old." Kim considered the proposal. It was risky, but they needed to know what they were facing. "What ship would you take?" "The Soul's Pride," Choi said. "She's our fastest vessel, and she has the best stealth systems. If any ship can make this trip undetected, it's her." Dr. Park Mina had been quiet during the briefing, but now she spoke up. "If Commander Choi is going to make contact with any surviving Volani, she'll need a way to communicate with them. I should go with her." "Absolutely not," Lee said. "You're too valuable to risk." "The Volani might not trust humans immediately," Mina argued. "They've been betrayed and abandoned by everyone. If we want their help, we need to show them we understand their language and their culture." Kim weighed the risks. Mina was Earth's best xenolinguist, but she was also one of only 3 people who could fully understand the alien data. "How long would the mission take?" Kim asked. 6 weeks each way," Choi said. "Maybe a week in Volani space, depending on what we find." "That's 3 months Earth could be building ships and weapons." "Yes, ma'am." But it's also 3 months we could be preparing for the wrong kind of war. The president made her decision. Take the soul's pride. Get us the intelligence we need. But if you encounter any Krotech forces, you run. Do not engage. Do not let them know we exist. Understood. As the meeting broke up, Minister Yoon Tae-hyun pulled Admiral Lee aside. How are the shipyards progressing? Better than expected, Lee said. The civilian shipbuilding companies are working around the clock. Every orbital platform, every asteroid mining station, every space dock is being converted for military production. What about weapons? That's where we might have an advantage. Human weapons are designed to work in Earth's environment. High gravity, thick atmosphere, extreme weather. Krotech technology seems optimized for low-gravity worlds with thin atmospheres. Meaning, our kinetic weapons hit harder. Our explosives are more powerful. Our armor is designed to stop things that evolved to kill large predators. Yoon nodded. Humans had spent millions of years as both hunters and hunted on one of the galaxy's most dangerous worlds. Their technology reflected that heritage. There's something else, Lee continued. I've been studying the Krotech battle tactics from the Villani data. They fight like they're herding livestock. Slow, methodical, overwhelming force applied carefully to avoid damaging valuable resources. And that's bad for them because? Because we're not livestock. We're persistence predators. We chase down our prey until it dies from exhaustion. Inu. Another part of the facility, Captain Osolgi was reviewing the new ship designs with her engineering team. She had been chosen to oversee the construction of Earth's first true warship, a vessel designed from the ground up to fight and win battles in space. The design is radical, she told her team. Nothing like anything humans have built before, but it incorporates everything we know about survival engineering. The ship on her screen looked brutal and efficient. It had no windows except for tiny, heavily armored observation ports. The hull was covered in reactive armor that could explode outward to deflect incoming projectiles. Weapons were mounted in heavily protected turrets that could operate even if most of the ship was destroyed. "What's the power source?" asked engineer Lim Jae-won. "Nuclear fusion with backup fission reactors, and if those fail, the ship can run on battery power for up to 72 hours. It's designed to keep fighting even if it's mostly dead." "Very human," Jae-won said with approval. The crew compartments are in the center of the ship, surrounded by armor, fuel tanks, and equipment. If something gets through the outer hull, it has to penetrate 6 more layers before it reaches anyone important. "What about speed?" "Not as fast as Krotech ships, but fast enough. We're not trying to outrun them. We're trying to get close enough to hurt them." Meanwhile, Dr. Hyun was working with teams of scientists around the world to understand Krotech technology. What they found was both encouraging and terrifying. "Their ships are incredibly advanced," he reported to the Science Council. "Faster than ours, better shielded, more efficient. But they're also optimized for fighting other civilized species." "What does that mean?" "Civilized species follow rules. They avoid unnecessary destruction. They try to preserve valuable resources. They fight honorable wars with clear objectives. The Krotech technology is designed for that kind of conflict." "And humans?" "Humans don't fight honorable wars. We fight to win, by any means necessary. Our technology reflects that. We build things to break other things as efficiently as possible." The scientist brought up comparative data on the screens around the room. Krotech weapons are designed to disable ships and capture them intact. Human weapons are designed to destroy the target completely. Crotech tactics focus on controlling territory. Human tactics focus on eliminating the enemy's ability to fight. So we might actually have a chance? If we can get close enough? Yes. The problem is getting there alive. As Earth's war machine began to spin up, the Soul's Pride was being prepared for its dangerous mission. Commander Choi supervised the installation of new stealth systems and long-range sensors. Dr. Mina loaded translation software and cultural databases. "Are you ready for this?" Choi asked as they prepared to depart. "No," Mina said honestly. "But someone has to go. The Villani asked for help. We're the only ones who heard them. And if there are no Villani left to help, then we learn everything we can about the Crotech and come back to warn Earth." The Soul's Pride launched on a cold morning, accelerating out of Earth's solar system toward the distant stars where a civilization had died asking for help. Behind her, Earth's factories worked day and night to build the tools of war. The message from the Villani had changed everything. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, but they had learned they lived in a galaxy where strong civilizations destroyed weak ones for sport. Earth's children had been born on a world that tried to kill them every day. Now they would show the galaxy what that meant. The Soul's Pride had been traveling for 6 weeks when Commander Choi first saw the Crotech Empire at work. The ship's sensors detected the battle from 3 million kilometers away, but even at that distance, the destruction was obvious. "What are we looking at?" Dr. Mina asked from the co-pilot seat. Choi adjusted the display. "Viridian 7. According to the Villani data, it was a farming world with about 800 million people." "Was?" "Look at the energy readings. The planet below was burning. Massive fires covered entire continents. The oceans were boiling in some places, frozen in others. The Crotech ships in orbit were systematically destroying anything that might support life." "Why would they do this?" Mina asked. "The planet is already conquered. Why keep destroying it?" "Because they don't want to conquer it," Choi said grimly. "They want to erase it." Lieutenant Nam Jahoon, the ship's communications officer, looked up from his station. "Commander, I'm picking up transmissions from the surface. There are still people alive down there." "Villani?" "Yes, ma'am. Sounds like evacuation ships trying to reach orbit." Choi studied the tactical display. 6 Crotech destroyers were positioned around the planet. 3 more ships, massive dreadnoughts, were bombarding the surface, and scattered between them tiny dots that barely registered on the sensors. Villani civilian ships trying to escape. "How many evacuation ships?" she asked. "Maybe 20 still airborne, but the Crotech are hunting them down one by one." As they watched, one of the Villani ships disappeared from the display. Then another. "They're not even pretending this is a military operation," Choi said. "They're murdering refugees." The Soul's Pride was hidden in the asteroid field on the edge of the system, invisible to Crotech sensors. The plan was to observe and gather intelligence, then return to Earth. But Choi found herself thinking about the message from Thyros, asking for help that would never come. "Commander," Jihoon said quietly, "there's a Villani hospital ship drifting near the 4th moon. It's badly damaged, probably no propulsion. The Crotech haven't noticed it yet, but there are 3 interceptors heading in that direction." Choi looked at the display. The hospital ship was small and defenseless. The Crotech interceptors would destroy it in seconds. "How many people on board?" she asked. "Maybe 200, based on the size." Dr. Mina turned to face her. "We can't save them, can we?" "Our orders were to observe only." "Our orders were to gather intelligence," Choi corrected. Maybe it's time we gathered some intelligence about how well human weapons work against Krotech ships. That's not what the president meant, and you know it. Choi studied the tactical situation. The Soul's Pride was built for exploration, but she mounted the best weapons Earth could design. Against 3 Krotech interceptors, the outcome was uncertain, but doing nothing meant watching 200 innocent people die. Ji-hoon, open a channel. To Earth. Ma'am, at this distance, it'll take 3 weeks for a message to reach home. I know. Record this message. Soul's Pride to Earth Command. We have located surviving Vellani civilians under attack by Krotech forces. The enemy is committing systematic genocide. I am taking action under emergency protocols. Commander Choi, out. She turned to Mina. You're the linguist. Can you figure out how to talk to the people on that hospital ship? Probably. The Vellani. Data included their communication protocols. Good. Ji-hoon, plot an intercept course for those interceptors. Best speed. Ma'am, are you sure about this? No. But I'm sure about what happens if we do nothing. The Soul's Pride broke from its hiding place in the asteroid field and accelerated toward the Krotech interceptors. Choi had studied their ship, designs during the long journey from Earth. The interceptors were fast and maneuverable, but lightly armored. They were built to hunt down helpless civilian ships, not fight other warships. Weapons online, reported the tactical officer. Kinetic, cannons loaded, missile tubes ready. Remember, these are the first shots in Earth's war, Choi said. Make them count. The Krotech ships detected the Soul's Pride when it was still 50,000 kilometers away. They immediately changed course to investigate the unknown contact. They're hailing us, Ji-hoon said. Put it on speakers. A harsh, clicking voice filled the bridge, speaking in the common galactic language. Dr. Mina translated quickly. They're demanding we identify ourselves and state our business. They're classifying us as a potential hostile. Tell them we're here for the hospital ship, Choi said. Mina transmitted the response. The Krotech reply was immediate and angry. They say the hospital ship is a military target harboring terrorists. They're ordering us to leave immediately or be destroyed. Counteroffer, Choi said. Tell them to leave or we'll destroy them. The transmission that came back needed no translation. It was clearly a threat. Range to target? Choi asked. 15,000 kilometers and closing? They're spreading out into attack formation. The Soul's Pride was outnumbered 3-1, but Choi had studied human naval tactics from Earth's oceans. The principle was simple. Hit first, hit hard, and make every shot count. Fire. The human ship opened fire with weapons the Krotech had never seen before. Kinetic cannons accelerated metal slugs to incredible velocities using magnetic fields. The projectiles hit the leading interceptor with the force of a small asteroid impact. The Krotech ship's shields flared and died. The metal slug punched through the hull and exploded inside the ship, tearing it apart from within. First target destroyed, the tactical officer reported. The remaining 2 Krotech ships fired back with energy weapons, bright beams that struck the Soul's Pride's armor. The human ship shuddered but kept fighting. Armor holding, someone reported. Minor damage to outer hull. Choi smiled grimly. Human ships were built to survive impacts from space debris at high velocity. Krotech energy weapons were designed to disable other ships, not punch through armor designed to stop asteroids. Target the second ship. Full missile spread. 6 missiles launched from the Soul's Pride, following different paths toward their target. The Krotech ship tried to shoot them down with point defense systems, but human missiles were designed differently than Krotech expectations. Instead of sophisticated guidance systems, they used simple persistence. They kept coming until something stopped them. 3 missiles got through. The second interceptor disappeared in a ball of fire. The third, Crotech ship tried to run. It turned away from the battle and began accelerating toward the safety of the main fleet. "Don't let it escape," Choi ordered. "If it reports our presence, they'll know about Earth." The Soul's Pride pursued the fleeing interceptor, gradually closing the distance. When they were within range, the kinetic cannons fired again. The Crotech ship died without sending a distress signal. "All targets destroyed," the tactical officer reported. "We're clear." Choi turned to Dr. Mina. "Can you contact the hospital ship now?" Mina worked at her console for several minutes before making contact. The conversation was brief but intense. When it ended, she looked shaken. "There are 197 Villani aboard," she said. "Mostly medical staff and patients from a surface hospital. Their ship is badly damaged, and they have no propulsion. Are they willing to come aboard? They don't understand who we are. They've never heard of humans or Earth. Tell them we received their message. Tell them we came to help." Mina transmitted the message. The response was immediate and emotional. "They want to know if we're going to save them. Tell them yes." The rescue operation took 3 hours. The Villani were small, about the size of human children, with blue skin and large eyes. They moved carefully in the Soul's Pride's gravity, which was too strong for them. But they were alive. Among the survivors was an elderly Villani wearing the robes of a scientist. Dr. Mina spoke with him first. "His name is Thyros," she told Choi. "He's the one who sent the original message to Earth." Choi found herself face to face with the alien who had started Earth's war. He looked tired and sad, but his eyes were intelligent and kind. "You received our signal," he said in broken human language. "We did, and we came as soon as we could." Thyros's large eyes filled with tears. "We thought no one would answer. We thought we would die alone." "You're not alone anymore," Choi said. "Earth heard you, and Earth is coming." "Earth?" Thyros looked confused. "But Earth is the death world. Nothing can live there." "Humans live there," Mina explained. "We evolved there." Thyros stared at them with wonder and growing hope. "The children of the death world came to help us?" "The children of the death world are very good at dealing with bullies," Choi said. Over the next day, as the Soul's Pride began its journey back to Earth, Thyros shared everything he knew about the Crotech Empire. Their military organization, their tactics, their technology, their weaknesses. "They are very powerful," he warned. "But they have never fought anyone who fought back effectively. Most species surrender quickly or die quickly. They have no experience with prolonged resistance." "What about their psychology?" Dr. Mina asked. "They see themselves as farmers," Thyros explained. "They believe weaker species are crops to be harvested or weeds to be removed. They do not understand predators." Choi smiled at that. "Then they're about to get an education. You really think you can stop them?" "I think they made a mistake," Choi said. "They sent their message of..." News of the human intervention reached Crotech High Command 3 weeks after the Soul's Pride destroyed the interceptors. War Leader Vorthak was reviewing routine reports when his aide brought him the disturbing message. "Sir, we've lost contact with Patrol Group 7 at Viridian 7. Vorthak barely looked up from his tactical displays. "Equipment failure?" "Unknown, sir. But there's more. Long-range sensors detected weapon signatures that don't match any known technology. That got Vorthak's attention. In 500 years of conquest, the Crotech had cataloged every weapon system used by every species in the galaxy. Nothing should be unknown. Show me the data." The holographic display showed the sensor readings from Viridian 7. Energy bursts, debris patterns, and something that made Vorthak's mandibles click with confusion. Kinetic weapon impacts. Kinetic weapons? He said. What primitive species still uses kinetic weapons? That's just it, sir. These aren't primitive. The impact velocities are impossibly high. Our ship's armor should have stopped them easily. Vorthak studied the data more carefully. 3 of his best interceptors had been destroyed in under 5 minutes by an unknown ship using obsolete weapons technology. It made no sense. Have intelligence. Analyze this. I want to know what species attacked us and where they came from. Already done, sir. Intelligence says the weapon signatures suggest the attackers originated from grid sector 7743. Vorthak brought up the galactic map. Sector 7T743 was marked in red, the color used for deathworlds, planet so hostile that no civilized species could survive there. There's nothing in that sector but the Deathworld Sol 3, he said. Yes, sir. Intelligence thinks it might be a previously unknown species using Sol 3 as a base, perhaps refugees from one of our recent campaigns. That made more sense to Vorthak. Some defeated species had probably hidden on the Deathworld, thinking the hostile environment would protect them. They were wrong. Dispatch Extermination Fleet Delta, he ordered. Standard pest control protocols. Sterilize the system and move on. Yes, sir. How large a force? 20 ships should be adequate. Whatever primitives are hiding there won't last long against proper Crotech firepower. Meanwhile, on Earth, the largest military buildup in human history was reaching its peak. The Soul's pride had returned with Thyros and the other Villani survivors, bringing detailed intelligence about their enemy. General Bei Sunho stood in the command center beneath Mount Cheyenne, watching status reports from around the solar system. Every available resource was being converted to military use. Construction report, he said. Captain Oseulgi stepped forward. We've completed 68 ships of the new destroyer class. The first battlecruiser will be ready next week. The orbital shipyards are producing 1 new vessel every 3 days. Crew training? On schedule. The Villani survivors have been incredibly helpful. Thyros has been working with our tactical teams to understand Crotech battle formations. Bay nodded. The alien scientist had proved invaluable. His knowledge of Crotech technology and tactics was helping Earth's military planners design better strategies. What about defensive preparations? Complete, reported Colonel Yoon Hara. We've mined the asteroid belt, positioned weapons platforms throughout the outer system, and prepared fallback positions around Earth and Mars. And if the defenses fail, then we make them pay for every kilometer, Hara said grimly. In another part of the complex, engineer Lim Jae-won was putting the finishing touches on humanity's new weapon systems. The Crotech used energy weapons almost exclusively, powerful but predictable. Human weapons were based on different principles. The kinetic cannons are ready for mass production, he reported to the engineering team. We can accelerate a tungsten slug to 15% of light speed. When it hits, it releases energy equivalent to a nuclear weapon. What about the missile systems? Those are more interesting. Crotech point defenses are designed to stop sophisticated guided missiles. Our missiles are deliberately simple. They use basic guidance systems and heavy armor. Once they're launched, they keep coming until something stops them. Dr. Park Mina had been working with Thyros to understand Crotech psychology and culture. What they learned was both encouraging and disturbing. They see warfare as pest control, she explained to the Psychological Warfare Unit. Crotech society is built around the idea that strong species naturally dominate weak ones. They've never encountered serious resistance. How do they handle setbacks? asked the unit commander. They don't. In 500 years, they've never lost a significant battle. They have no experience with defeat, no protocols for dealing with determined enemies. And that helps us how? Because they're not mentally prepared for what's coming. When humans fight, we expect to lose battles, to take casualties, to struggle for victory. We've been doing it for thousands of years. The Krotek expect easy wins against helpless targets. Thyros, who had been listening to the conversation, spoke up. There is something else you should know about them. Krotek society is very rigid. They follow orders precisely and do not adapt quickly to new situations. Meaning? Meaning they will keep using the same tactics even when those tactics stop working. They are not, how do you say, creative in their thinking. Admiral Lee Dong-yuk was reviewing the final preparations when an aide brought him urgent news. Sir, deep space sensors have detected an incoming fleet. 20 ships, Krotek design, arriving in approximately 6 hours. Lee wasn't surprised. The attack on the Volani evacuation ships had revealed Earth's location. He had known this moment would come. Sound general quarters. All ships to battle. Stations. This is not a drill. Across the solar system, humanity's fleet moved into position. The new warships were untested in real combat. Their crews were mostly inexperienced, and they were outnumbered 3-1. But they had advantages the Krotek didn't understand. Commander Choi, now promoted to Admiral after her successful mission, took command of the primary battle group. Her flagship was the Earth's Fury, the first of the new battle cruisers. Unlike the graceful curves of Krotek ships, it looked like a flying fortress, angular, heavily armored, and bristling with weapons. All stations report ready, her tactical officer announced. Good. Remember, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to show these aliens what happens when they threaten Earth. The Krotek fleet arrived exactly on schedule, dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Fleet Commander Zorthek was confident this would be a routine operation. His 20 ships were modern and powerful, crewed by experienced warriors. Initial scan complete, his sensor operator reported. I'm detecting approximately 60 human vessels spread throughout the system. 60? Zorthek was mildly surprised. Most primitive species had only a handful of ships. Any signs of advanced technology? Negative, sir. Their vessels appear to be converted civilian craft with basic weapon systems. Standard formation then. We'll destroy their fleet, bombard their primary world, and move on to the next assignment. But as the Krotek fleet moved deeper into the solar system, they began to realize this was not going to be a standard operation. The human ships didn't retreat to defensive positions as expected. Instead, they attacked. The first human ship to open fire was the destroyer Soul's Pride, now retrofitted with the latest weapons. Its kinetic cannons sent tungsten slugs racing across space at incredible velocity. The lead Krotek cruiser's shields flared and collapsed. The kinetic projectile punched through the hull and exploded inside the ship, tearing it apart from within. "Report!" Zorthek demanded. "The humans are using kinetic weapons, sir. Our shields aren't designed to stop solid projectiles at those velocities. Adjust shield frequencies to maximum. Sir, it's not an energy weapon. The shields can't stop physical objects." Before Zorthek could respond, more human ships opened fire. Missiles swarmed toward his fleet, simple but effective weapons that ignored Krotek countermeasures. The sophisticated point defense systems tried to intercept them, but there were too many, and they kept coming even when damaged. "Evasive maneuvers," Zorthek ordered. "Return fire." Krotech energy weapons lanced out toward the human fleet, striking armor designed to survive asteroid impacts. The beams scorched and melted the outer hull plates, but the human ships kept fighting. This was not how battles were supposed to go. Enemy fleets were supposed to be destroyed quickly and efficiently, with minimal damage to Krotech forces. But these humans seemed to expect battle damage to plan for it. "Sir, we've lost 3 ships," his aide reported. "The humans are concentrating fire on individual targets." Zorthek watched his tactical display with growing alarm. The human ships moved in coordinated groups, surrounding individual Krotech vessels and destroying them with focused firepower. It was like watching pack hunters take down larger prey. "Sir, should we withdraw and request reinforcements?" The thought was almost unthinkable. Krotech forces did not retreat from inferior opponents, but Zorthek was beginning to understand that these humans might not be inferior after all. "No. We finish this." But even as he gave the order, more Krotech ships were dying. The humans fought like they had nothing to lose, ramming damaged ships into his vessels when their weapons failed, using suicide tactics that no civilized species would consider. The news from Sol System reached Krotech High Command like a shockwave through the Empire. War Leader Vorthak stared at the battle reports in disbelief. 20 ships destroyed by primitive deathworlders using kinetic weapons. It was impossible. "Play the transmission again," he ordered. Admiral Zorthek's damaged face appeared on the holographic display. His ship showed clear signs of battle damage, and his voice carried something Vorthak had never heard from a Krotech commander before: fear. "The humans fight like animals," Zorthek reported. "They use pack tactics, suicide attacks, and weapons, designed to destroy rather than capture. They don't follow any civilized rules of warfare." "Animals," Vorthak muttered. "But animals with starships." His aide approached cautiously. "Sir, what are your orders regarding the Deathworld?" Vorthak considered his options. A full-scale invasion would require hundreds of ships and might take months to complete. But leaving the humans alone meant accepting defeat, something no Krotech commander had done in 5 centuries. "Assemble Strike Force Alpha," he decided. 200 ships, our best crews. We'll show these Deathworlders what real power looks like. 200 ships, sir. For one primitive system? These primitives just destroyed 20 of our vessels. I'm not making the same mistake twice. Meanwhile, on Earth, the victory celebration was brief. Admiral Lee knew the Krotech would return with a much larger force. Humanity had won the first battle, but the real test was coming. "Status report," he demanded from his staff. "We lost 34 ships in the engagement," reported Captain O'Sulgi. "But our shipyards are already replacing them. We'll have 40 new vessels ready within the month." "What about crew casualties?" 800 dead, 1,500 wounded. Lower than expected thanks to our armor design. Lee nodded grimly. Those numbers represented friends and colleagues, but they were much better than the worst-case projections. Human ships were built to protect their crews, even when dying. "Admiral Choi's after-action report is ready," his aide announced. Choi had spent 3 days analyzing the battle data. Her conclusions were both encouraging and sobering. "The good news is that our weapons work," she reported to the assembled commanders. "Kinetic cannons penetrate Krotech shields easily, and our missiles can overwhelm their point defenses. And the bad news? They're learning. By the end of the battle, they were adapting their tactics. If they come back with more ships and better preparation, it's going to be much harder." General Bay spoke up from his position at the strategic display. "How long before they return?" Thyros estimates 2 to 3 months for them to assemble. A major fleet, Choi said. But we can't count on that. They might send a smaller force sooner. Then we use the time we have, Lee decided. How's Project Deathworld progressing? Project Deathworld was humanity's most ambitious plan, turning the entire solar system into a weapon. If the Krotech wanted to fight the children of a death world, they would learn what a death world could do. Engineer Lim Jae-won stepped forward to brief the group. We've completed the first phase. The asteroid belt is now a minefield with over 10,000 concealed weapon platforms. Each one looks like natural rock until it opens fire. What about the outer planets? Jupiter and Saturn have been turned into fortress systems. We've built weapons platforms inside the storms, powered by the planet's own energy. Any ship trying to pass through will face hurricane winds and lightning strikes along with our firepower. And Earth itself? Protected by 3 defensive rings: the lunar fortresses, the orbital battle stations, and the surface-to-space defense grid. If enemy ships reach Earth, they'll have to fight through 3 layers of concentrated firepower. Doctor, Mina had been working with Thyros and the other Vellani survivors to understand more about the Krotech Empire. What they learned was helping shape Earth's strategy. The Empire controls over 50,000 ships, she reported, but they're spread across 200 star systems. They can't bring their full strength to bear without leaving their territory defenseless. How many ships could they realistically send against us? Asked Lee. Maybe 500 at most. Any more than that would leave their core worlds vulnerable to rebellion. Thyros, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. There is something else you should know. The Krotech have never fought a defensive war. They always attack weaker opponents. They do not know how to respond when someone attacks them. Are you suggesting we go on the offensive? Lee asked. I am suggesting that the Krotech fear only one thing: losing control of their empire. If their subject species see them defeated, rebellions will spread throughout their territory. The idea was audacious. Earth's fleet was tiny compared to the Krotech Empire. But if they could strike at the right targets, they might cause the entire structure to collapse. What targets would cause the most damage? Lee asked. Thyros activated a holographic star map. Here, here, and here, he said, pointing to 3 systems. These are regional command centers. If they were destroyed, the local fleets would be cut off from orders. Chaos would follow. Admiral Choi studied the map. Those systems are heavily defended. We'd need to hit them fast and hard, then get out before reinforcements arrive. The Soul's Pride proved we can outrun them, pointed out Captain O. Our ships are faster in real space, even if their faster-than-light drives are more advanced. It's risky, Lee said. If we lose our fleet in enemy territory, Earth will be defenseless. If we wait here for them to attack with overwhelming force, we'll lose anyway, Choi countered. This gives us a chance to win. The debate continued for hours. Finally, Lee made his decision. We'll split our forces. Half will remain here to defend Earth. The other half will launch hit-and-run attacks on Krotech territory. If we're going to lose this war, we'll make them pay for every victory. 3 weeks later, the human fleet departed Earth on its first offensive mission. Admiral Choi commanded the strike force, 40 of humanity's newest and most powerful ships. Their target was the Krotech regional headquarters at Zerion Prime. The journey took 2 weeks at maximum speed. When they arrived, they found exactly what Thyros had predicted: a heavily defended system with dozens of Krotech ships protecting important installations. Tactical analysis complete, reported the sensor officer. 23 enemy vessels in orbit around the primary world, multiple space stations and defense platforms. Our orders are simple, Choi announced to her fleet. Destroy everything. Military, avoid civilian targets, and get out before their reinforcements arrive. The human ships struck without warning, emerging from faster-than-light travel already firing. Their kinetic cannons reached out across space, sending tungsten slugs racing toward Krotek ships at incredible velocity. The surprise was total. 3 Krotek vessels died in the first salvo before they could even raise their shields. The others scrambled to respond, but human tactics had evolved since the Battle of Sol Major Song Wu Jin led the fighter squadrons in the first space dogfights in human history. His pilots flew ships that were fast, maneuverable, and built for close combat. Against Krotek fighters designed for long-range engagements, they were devastatingly effective. Target their engines first, Song ordered his squadron. Disable them, then move to the next target. Human fighters swarmed around the larger Krotek ships like angry insects, their weapons designed to punch through armor and destroy critical systems. The enemy point defenses couldn't track targets that moved like earthborn predators. Captain O. Seulgi commanded the heavy assault group, leading the battle cruisers against the Krotek space stations. Her ship, the Earth's Hammer, mounted the most powerful kinetic cannon ever built by humans. Range to target? She asked. 50,000 kilometers and closing. Fire. The tungsten slug left the cannon at 20% of light speed. When it hit the Krotek command station, the explosion was visible from the other side of the star system. The entire structure simply ceased to exist. Target destroyed, reported the tactical officer with satisfaction. The battle lasted only 30 minutes. When it was over, the Krotek regional fleet had been annihilated and their command structure destroyed. The human fleet regrouped at the edge of the system. Casualties? Choi asked. 3 ships damaged, none destroyed. 12 fighters lost, 8 pilots rescued. Enemy losses? Total. Every military installation in the system has been eliminated. As the human fleet prepared to depart, they broadcast a message on all Krotek frequencies. The voice belonged to Thyros, speaking in his own language to any Vellani who might be listening. This is Thyros of Vellani Prime. The message we sent into the void was heard. The children of the Deathworld have come to keep their promise. Tell all who will listen. The Empire's reign of terror is ending. The message spread throughout Krotek space faster than any fleet could travel. Subject species that had lived in fear for centuries suddenly had hope. Rebellions began breaking out on a dozen worlds, and in the depths of space, more human fleets were already moving toward their next targets. Earth's children had learned something important in their first offensive battle. They were very good at this. War leader Vorthak watched the intelligence reports with growing alarm. In 3 months, the humans had destroyed 8 regional command centers, captured 4 supply depots, and sparked rebellions on 17 worlds. What had started as a simple pest control operation was becoming a threat to the entire empire. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked his intelligence chief. 347 confirmed destroyed, sir. Another 112. Missing. Presumed destroyed. And human losses? Minimal, sir. Their hit-and-run tactics make it difficult to engage them in sustained combat. Vorthak's mandibles clicked with frustration. The humans fought like nothing he had ever encountered. They struck without warning, destroyed everything military in a system, then vanished before reinforcements could arrive. They didn't try to hold territory or capture resources. They simply killed Krotek ships and moved on. What about Strike Force Alpha? Still assembling, sir. We've had to reassign ships to protect our core territories from the rebellions. That was the real problem. The human attacks weren't just destroying ships. They were inspiring the Empire's subject species to rebel. Worlds that had been peaceful for centuries were now burning with revolution. "Sir," his aide interrupted, "we're receiving a priority. Transmission from Zerion 7. Vorthak accepted the communication. The holographic image showed a Krotech base commander, his usually pristine uniform torn and stained. "War leader, we need immediate reinforcement. The local species have risen in revolt. They've captured half our installations and are threatening our orbital shipyards. How many rebels are we facing?" "Unknown, sir. But they're using captured Krotech weapons, and they're being led by someone who understands our tactics." The transmission cut out suddenly. Vorthak stared at the empty display, understanding the implications. If the rebellions spread to the shipbuilding worlds, the Empire would lose its ability to replace losses. Meanwhile, in the outer reaches of Krotech space, Colonel Yoon Hara was leading humanity's first ground assault on an enemy fortress world. Her Marines were volunteers from Earth's special forces, trained for the most dangerous environments their planet could offer. "Status report," she demanded from her field commanders. "Beachhead secured," reported Major Kim Deho. "The Krotech ground forces are in full retreat. They're not adapted for jungle warfare." That was the key to human success on the ground. The fortress world of Krotech Prime 7 was covered in dense forests that reminded Hara of Earth's Amazon. For the Krotech evolved from plains-dwelling herbivores, the jungle was an alien nightmare. For humans, it was just another day at the office. What about the orbital defenses? "Captain Shin's squadron took them out 20 minutes ago. We have complete air superiority." Captain Shin Hyrum had volunteered for the most dangerous job in the assault, leading atmospheric fighters against the planet's defense satellites. Her pilots flew modified Earth fighters, built for operation in hostile environments. "Control, this is Dragon Leader," she reported. "All orbital platforms destroyed, beginning ground support operations." Her fighters dove through the planet's thick atmosphere, hunting Krotech vehicles trying to escape the human advance. The enemy had expected the attack to come from space, not from soldiers who could survive in their world's deadliest environments. Dragon. 2. I have multiple targets at grid reference 77 Alpha. Confirmed, Dragon Leader. I see them. Krotech transport convoy moving east. Light them up. The human fighters struck the convoy with kinetic projectiles, turning the vehicles into twisted metal. The survivors fled into the jungle, where Hara's Marines were waiting. "This is Echo Squad," came the radio report. "We have 23 Krotech prisoners requesting surrender." "Accept their surrender," Hara ordered, "but keep them under heavy guard. We need intelligence about their defensive plans." The ground campaign lasted only 18 hours. When it was over, the humans controlled the entire planet and had captured the regional communications hub. More importantly, they had freed over 2 million alien slaves who had been working in the Krotech factories. "Colonel," her intelligence officer reported, "we've captured the enemy database. It contains fleet movements for the entire sector." Hara smiled. This information would let the human fleets target enemy forces with perfect accuracy. But the most significant victory wasn't military, it was psychological. Dr. Kang Hyun, now serving as Earth's diplomatic attaché, interviewed the freed slaves. "Tell me about the Krotech," he asked a representative from the reptilian Scorth people. "They are devils," the alien replied. "For 200 years they have enslaved our people. They told us resistance was impossible, that no one could stand against the Empire. And now? Now we see devils bleed. The humans have shown us that the Krotech can be defeated. What will your people do now? Fight! Word of your victory here will spread to every Krotech world. The slave rebellions will not stop until the Empire falls. Back on Earth, Admiral Lee was coordinating the war effort from his command center. The campaign was going better than anyone had dared hope, but he knew the real test was still coming. Intelligence reports that the Krotech are finally assembling a major fleet, he briefed his staff. 800 ships, their best commanders, heading straight for Earth. When will they arrive? Asked General Bay. 3 weeks, maybe 4. They're moving slowly, probably trying to coordinate with forces from multiple sectors. Are we ready for them? Lee looked at the strategic displays showing Earth's defenses. Project Deathworld was complete. The solar system had been turned into the most dangerous place in the galaxy, as ready as we can be. The question is whether we can hurt them badly enough to break their will to fight. Admiral Choi entered the briefing room. She had just returned from the latest offensive operation, looking tired but satisfied. How did the Zirian raid go? Lee asked. Better than expected. We destroyed their regional academy and captured 300 officer candidates, but more importantly, we intercepted communications about their planned assault on Earth. What did you learn? They're scared, Choi said simply. The Krotech commanders are arguing among themselves about tactics. Some want to bombardment Earth from long range. Others want to assault our defenses directly. Fear is good, commented Thyros, who had been listening to the briefing. Fear makes them make mistakes. The Vallani scientist had become Earth's most valuable advisor on Krotech psychology. His people had studied their oppressors for generations, looking for weaknesses. There is something else, Thyros continued. The Krotech Supreme Command is under pressure from their own people. The rebellions have spread to 43 worlds. The Empire is spending more resources fighting internal revolts than fighting you. So we keep the pressure on, Lee decided. Admiral Choi, take whatever ships you can spare and hit their supply lines. I want their fleet to arrive here hungry, tired, and demoralized. Understood, sir. As the meeting broke up, Engineer Lim Jae-won approached Lee with a final report. The last of the system defenses are online, he said. Every asteroid, every moon, every piece of space debris has been weaponized. When the Krotech fleet arrives, they'll find out what it means to invade a system defended by deathworlders. Will it be enough? It'll have to be. But, Admiral, there's something you should know. The weapons we've built, the tactics we've developed, they're changing us. Earth isn't the same world it was a year ago. Lee understood what Jae-won meant. Humanity had awakened something ancient and dangerous in themselves. They had remembered what their ancestors knew, that sometimes the only way to stop a predator was to become a better predator. The Krotech started this war because they thought, we were weak, Lee said. They're about to learn that weakness and mercy are not the same thing. 3 weeks later, long-range sensors detected the incoming Krotech fleet. 800 ships, the largest force the Empire had ever assembled. Their intention was clear, the complete destruction of Earth and everything human. But Earth was ready. Hidden throughout the solar system, thousands of weapons waited for their moment. Human ships prepared for the fight of their lives, and on the surface of the death world itself, billions of people watched the stars and prepared to show the galaxy. What happened when someone threatened their home? The children of Earth had grown up, and they were very, very angry. The Krotech Grand Fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system like a storm of death. 800 ships stretched across space in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the pride of 5 centuries of conquest. Supreme War Leader Vorthok commanded from his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, confident that this would end the human threat forever. Initial sensor sweep complete, his tactical officer reported. I'm detecting approximately 300 human vessels in defensive positions throughout the system. Only 300? Vorthak was surprised. Intelligence had suggested the humans could field more ships. Perhaps they're finally showing wisdom. Sir, there's something strange about their deployment. Most of their ships are concentrated near the inner planets, but there are scattered vessels throughout the asteroid belt. Probably mining ships trying to hide, Vorthak decided. Begin the attack. Standard fleet formation. Destroy any resistance. But as the Krotek fleet moved deeper into the system, they discovered that nothing about this battle would be standard. The first surprise came when they reached Jupiter. The gas giant's massive storms had hidden something unprecedented. Weapons platforms built inside the planet's atmosphere, powered by the electrical energy of its endless hurricanes. Sir, I'm detecting massive energy spikes from Jupiter's storm. Systems, the sensor operator called out in alarm. Explain. The humans have built something inside the planet itself. It's charging up to fire. Lightning lanced out from Jupiter's storms. Not the natural lightning of a gas giant, but controlled energy beams that reached across space to strike the Krotek fleet. Ships that had never been damaged by natural forces found their shields overwhelmed by the power of an entire planet. Evasive maneuvers, Vorthak ordered. Get us away from that planet. But the Krotek fleet was massive and slow to change course. 7 ships were destroyed by Jupiter's weaponized storms before they could escape. The gas giant's range. Sir, Saturn is showing similar energy signatures, the tactical officer reported with growing fear. The second gas giant opened fire as the fleet passed, its rings revealed to be not ice and rock, but camouflaged weapons platforms. The beautiful Rings of Saturn became a deadly gauntlet that claimed another dozen Krotek ships. How is this possible? Vorthak demanded. They've turned entire planets into weapons. Sir, perhaps we should consider a long-range bombardment strategy, suggested his chief of staff. Destroy the human fleet from outside their defensive perimeter. No, Vorthak replied firmly. We will show the galaxy that the Empire cannot be intimidated by primitives. Full attack, all ships. As the Krotek fleet entered the asteroid belt, the third surprise awaited them. What looked like natural space rocks suddenly came alive, revealing themselves as concealed weapons platforms. Thousands of hidden guns opened fire simultaneously, creating a crossfire that stretched across millions of kilometers. We're taking heavy casualties, reported the fleet status officer. 47 ships destroyed, dozens more damaged. Admiral Choi watched the battle from her command ship, hidden among the real asteroids. Project Deathworld was working perfectly. The Krotek had expected to fight a fleet. Instead, they were fighting an entire solar system. All ships, begin Phase 2, she ordered. Hit-and-run tactics, stay mobile, make them chase us through the minefield. Human ships emerged from hiding places throughout the asteroid belt, fired devastating salvos of kinetic rounds, then disappeared back into the maze of rocks and hidden weapons. The Krotek fleet, designed for formation fighting, struggled to respond to enemies that appeared and vanished like ghosts. Commander No Youngman led a squadron of destroyers in a perfect ambush. His ships had been hiding inside a hollowed-out asteroid for 3 days, waiting for this moment. Wait for it, he told his crews as Krotek cruisers passed nearby. Wait for it. Now! The asteroid exploded outward, revealing 6 human destroyers in perfect firing position. Their kinetic cannons spoke as one, sending tungsten slugs racing toward the surprised enemy ships. 3 Krotek cruisers died before they could even identify the threat. Fish in a barrel. Youngman muttered with satisfaction. But the humans weren't content to simply defend. Even as their hidden weapons devastated the Krotech fleet, Earth's mobile forces went on the attack. Major Song Woo-jin led the fighter squadrons in the greatest dogfight in human history. His pilots flew ships built for Earth's violent skies, machines that could handle turbulence that would tear apart most aircraft. "All squadrons, this is Dragon Leader," he broadcast. "Today we show them what Earth's children can do. No mercy, no quarter, no survivors." Human fighters swarmed through the Krotech formation like deadly insects, their weapons designed to kill enemy ships as efficiently as possible. The Krotech point defenses, overwhelmed by the sheer number of targets, began to fail. "Dragon 3, I have a heavy cruiser at 2 o'clock. Let's take her down." "Copy that, Dragon Leader. Beginning attack run." 6 human fighters dove toward the Krotech ship, their combined firepower focused on its engine section. The enemy vessel tried to swat them with its defensive weapons, but the pilots flew with the skill of predators, born on a world that had tried to kill them every day. The cruiser died in a ball of fire. On the surface of Earth, billions of people watched the battle through telescopes and electronic displays. They saw their children fighting for the survival of their species, and they were proud. "The orbital defense platforms are engaging," reported General Bay from the Planetary Command Center. "First ring is firing now." Earth's moon had been turned into a fortress, its surface covered with kinetic cannons that could reach any target in near-Earth space. As Krotech ships broke through the asteroid belt, they found themselves facing the concentrated firepower of humanity's home defense. "Second ring engaging," Bay continued. "Orbital battle stations are operational. The space stations around Earth opened fire with weapons that drew power from the planet's own rotation. Beams of energy and streams of projectiles reached out toward the approaching enemy fleet. Captain Shin Hyerim commanded the lunar defense grid. She had volunteered for the position because she knew it was probably a one-way assignment. If the Krotech reached Earth orbit, the moon's defenders would fight to the last person. "All batteries target the lead elements," she ordered. "Make every shot count." The moon's weapons fired in perfect coordination, sending a wall of destruction toward the Krotech fleet. Enemy ships that had survived the journey through the outer system found themselves facing the full defensive power of a deathworld. But some Krotech ships broke through. Their weapons reached out toward Earth itself, sending beams of destruction toward the blue planet that had spawned their greatest enemies. Earth's final defense activated. The planet's surface was covered with weapons. Platforms hidden in mountains, under oceans, and in the polar ice caps. Every continent had become a fortress. Every city was protected by defensive systems that could engage targets in orbit. "This is Earth Defense Command," Admiral Lee broadcast to the attacking fleet. "You came here to destroy our world. Instead, you've learned what it means to fight a planet that evolved predators." The surface-to-orbit weapons opened fire, filling space around Earth with a web of destruction. Krotech ships that entered the planet's defensive envelope found themselves facing weapons powered by geothermal energy, tidal forces, and the planet's own magnetic field. But the most devastating response came from something the Krotech had never expected: the planet's weather. Human weather control systems, originally built to manage hurricanes and tornadoes, had been weaponized. As enemy ships approached the atmosphere, they encountered artificial storms that generated electromagnetic pulses, controlled lightning strikes, and atmospheric disturbances that could tear apart starships. "Sir, we're losing ships to the planet's weather systems," the Krotech tactical officer reported in disbelief. "They've weaponized their entire atmosphere." Vorthak watched his fleet dying around him. In 3 hours of battle, he had lost over 200 ships. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a weapon, and his forces were being destroyed by everything from asteroids to gas giant storms. "Sir, should we withdraw and regroup?" his chief of staff asked desperately. "No," Vorthak replied, his voice filled with rage and desperation. "We are the Krotek Empire. We do not retreat from inferior species." But even as he spoke, more of his ships were dying. The humans fought with a coordination and ferocity that the Empire had never encountered. They used their own environment as a weapon, turning the hazards of their death world against their enemies. Admiral Choi's voice cut through the chaos on all Krotek frequencies, speaking in perfect Krotek language. "Attention, Krotek fleet. You came here with 800 ships to destroy Earth. Look around you. Count your losses. This is what happens when you threaten the children of a world that spent 4 billion years trying to kill them." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You have one chance to survive this day. Withdraw now, and tell your empire what you learned here. Continue this attack, and none of you will live to see tomorrow." The transmission ended, leaving the Krotek fleet in stunned silence. They had come to destroy a primitive species, and had instead encountered something unprecedented, a civilization that had weaponized an entire. Supreme War Leader Vorthak stared at his tactical display in growing horror. In 4 hours of battle, his grand fleet of 800 ships had been reduced to fewer than 300. The humans were destroying Krotek vessels faster than he could count them. "Sir, we must withdraw," his chief of staff pleaded. "We cannot win this battle." "The Empire does not retreat," Vorthak replied, but his voice lacked conviction. Around him, the command bridge shuddered as human weapons found their mark. "Sir, Admiral Zorthek's battle group has been completely destroyed. Admiral Korthek is requesting permission to fall back." Vorthak watched another dozen ships disappear from his display. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a weapon, and his forces were being systematically annihilated. Then came the transmission that broke the last of his resolve. "Krotek Fleet, this is Fleet Marshal Park Dongho of the Earth Defense Force," the human voice said in perfect Krotek language. "Your war against innocent species ends today. You have 30 minutes to withdraw from our system, or we will destroy every remaining ship." "30 minutes?" Vorthak's aide gasped. "Sir, they cannot be serious." But even as they spoke, the human fleet was moving into final position. Every surviving ship, every hidden weapon platform, every orbital defense station was preparing for one coordinated strike. On Earth's surface, Admiral Lee watched the battle from his command center. The Krotek fleet was broken but not yet destroyed. Now came the moment of truth. "All units, this is Earth Command," he broadcast. "Prepare for Operation Deathworld Final. Show them what happens when someone threatens our home." Every weapon Earth had built over the past year aimed at the remaining Krotek ships. The moon's kinetic cannons, the orbital battle stations, the hidden asteroid platforms, the weaponized storms of Jupiter and Saturn, all waited for the order to fire. Dr. Park Mina stood beside him, translating the Krotek communications. "They're arguing among themselves," she reported. "Some want to surrender, others want to fight to the death." "What about their leader?" "Vorthak is trying to maintain control, but his fleet is breaking apart. Fear is spreading through their ranks." Thyros approached the command station. The Villani scientist had tears in his large eyes, but they were tears of joy, not sorrow. "Mike." "People's message reached the right ears," he said quietly. "The children of the death world kept their promise. Before Lee could respond, new contacts appeared on the tactical display. Ships were arriving from outside the solar system. But these weren't Crotech vessels. "Sir, we're detecting faster-than-light signatures," the sensor operator reported. "Multiple fleets incoming from different vectors." "Crotech reinforcements?" Lee asked grimly. "No, sir. These are different. Smaller ships, various designs. They're broadcasting identification codes." Dr. Mina worked frantically to translate the incoming signals. When she looked up, her face showed amazement. "Admiral, these are rebel fleets, species that have broken free from Crotech control. They're here to help us." The first fleet to arrive bore the markings of the Villani resistance. Ships cobbled together from stolen Crotech technology and hidden factories. Behind them came vessels from a dozen other species, all former slaves of the Empire who had risen in rebellion. "This is General Korvac of the Free Villani Navy," came a transmission. "Earth ships, we received your message. The galaxy stands with you against the tyrants." More voices joined the channel. Representatives from the Scorth Republic, the Thalan Liberation Front, the United Colonies of Zerion, all species that had thrown off Crotech rule and come to fight beside humanity. Vorthak received the same transmissions on his command ship. As he watched rebel fleets pour into the system, he finally understood the true scope of what the humans had accomplished. They hadn't just defeated his fleet. They had inspired a galaxy-wide revolution. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving surrender requests from 47 of our ships. The crews are refusing to continue the battle." "Mutiny?" "No, sir. They're saying the war is lost. The Empire is falling apart. Our core worlds are in rebellion. Our supply lines are cut, and our allies are switching sides. For the first time in 500 years, a Crotech Supreme War leader faced the possibility of total defeat. Around him, the greatest fleet in his species' history was disintegrating." Admiral Choi's voice cut through the chaos one final time. "Crotech forces, this is your final warning. Surrender now, or face the combined fleets of every species you ever oppressed. You wanted to show the galaxy your strength. Instead, you've shown them your weakness." She paused, letting the words sink in. "The age of Crotech dominance is over. The galaxy belongs to free peoples now. You can die with your empire, or you can live to see a better universe." Vorthak looked around his command bridge at the faces of his officers. He saw fear, desperation, and something he had never seen in Crotech eyes before. Doubt. Doubt in the Empire, doubt in their cause, doubt in their right to rule others. "Sir," his chief of staff whispered, "what are your orders?" For a long moment Vorthak said nothing. He thought of the 5 centuries of conquest, the billions of beings enslaved or killed, the empire that had seemed eternal and invincible. All of it was crumbling because one small species had refused to accept defeat. "Signal the fleet," he said finally. "All ships are to stand down and prepare for surrender." "Sir, you heard me. The war is over. The Empire is finished." The Crotech fleet powered down its weapons and raised the universal signal of surrender. Around them, the combined fleets of the Free Galaxy maintained careful watch, ready to resume the battle if necessary. But the fight had gone out of the Crotech. They had learned what every bully eventually learns, that their victims would eventually find the strength to fight back. On Earth, celebrations began as news of the surrender spread, but Admiral Lee remained focused on the future. The immediate threat was over, but the work of building a better galaxy had just begun. "Open a channel to all fleets," he ordered. "This is Admiral Lee of Earth Defense Command, speaking to all free peoples of the galaxy. Today we have won more than a battle. We have won the right to live without fear, to grow without oppression, to build a future where strength protects the weak instead of exploiting them." He paused, looking at the tactical display showing hundreds of ships from dozens of species. The Krotech Empire sent their message of genocide across the stars, thinking no one would answer. They were wrong. The Deathworld heard their call, and the Deathworld answered. But we did not answer alone. Every species that values freedom, every civilization that believes in justice, every people who refuse to bow to tyrants, you all answered that call. The message that reached Earth was a cry for help from the Vellani people. Today, that cry has been answered not just by humans, but by all of us together. The galaxy is free, and it will remain free as long as we stand united. As the various fleets began to organize themselves, Thyros approached Lee with a proposal. "Admiral, the rebel species are asking for Earth's help in establishing a new galactic council. They want humans to have a leading role in governing the post-war galaxy." Lee considered the offer carefully. "What do you think, Thyros? Should the children of a death world help lead the galaxy?" "I think," the old scientist said with a smile, "that the galaxy needs people who understand that freedom is worth fighting for. And I think the universe is safer when it is watched over by predators who choose to protect the innocent." 5 years later, the Galactic Freedom Council met on Earth for its annual assembly. Representatives from over 300 species gathered in the Great Hall built in the ruins of the old United Nations building. Admiral Choi, now serving as Earth's representative to the Council, stood before the assembly to deliver the opening address. 5 years ago, a message reached our world, a cry for help from a dying civilization. That message changed everything. It brought us together, showed us our strength, and taught us that the universe is vast enough for all of us to live in peace. She gestured to the great memorial wall, where the names of every Vellani who died in the genocide were inscribed in letters of light. We remember those who died. We honor those who survived. And we promise those yet to be born that the galaxy they inherit will be better than the one we found. The assembly rose as one, representatives of species who had once been enemies, now united in their commitment to freedom and justice. And in the depths of space, human patrol ships continued, their watch ready to respond if any new threat emerged. The children of the death world had kept their promise. The galaxy was free, and it would remain that way. The message from Thyros had asked for help, and help had come. Not just from Earth, but from every corner of the galaxy where beings still believed in hope. The age of empires was over. The age of freedom had begun. And it all started with a simple message. If any civilization receives this, please remember that we existed. The galaxy remembered, and the galaxy was grateful.